This video has been coming for a while, and we're going to talk about e-bikes on this ride and ramble, specifically e-bikes on Marco Island. And I've sort of been avoiding this I've been avoiding this video for some time because it's a conversation I hate to have, but I know it's kind of reached a head. And what really motivated me to do this was I've heard a lot of rumblings over the period of time, maybe the last year, but Commissioner LaCastro's email, his newsletter this week, by the way, if you want the most accurate information on what's going on in the county, subscribe to his email letter. And you may not like what he has to say, but he always speaks the truth and he gives it to you straight. So that's why I really like that and respect the communication that he puts out there. But he addressed e-bikes and scooters this week and also mentioned that he knows that a lot of cities have been having this conversation. Specifically, he mentioned Marco Island. And then also, I sort of peruse the ad hoc bike committee minutes and agendas, and they've had e-bikes on there as well. Just haven't announced anything yet, but I know what I read was they were talking about additional signage on some of the shared use paths, and they were holding off until they had some further guidance on e-bikes before they made up new signs. So again, I know it's coming. Hello. First of all, let me tell you this: the angle of the camera, the field of view on my cameras make it look like I'm going a lot faster than what I am right now. I'm doing 11 miles an hour. I'm on my e-bike, of course. Every e-bike has a speedometer on it, and when you see me out, you'll see me out doing anywhere from 10 to 12 miles an hour, and if I get up to 13, I can feel the difference. Put it that way. Interestingly, this morning I used ChatGPT to find out and canvass all of the bike groups that were out there, organized bike groups and civic groups, to find out what an acceptable level of speed is on a shared use path. And it came up with 10 to 15 miles an hour is considered a courteous, respectable speed on a shared use path. And that's what I'm riding on here. And I've always advocated anywhere between 12 and 10, between 10 and 12, maybe 13 miles an hour is what I consider safe. That's not courteous speed when passing others, though. You always slow down when you're passing others, especially going in the same direction as them, because it can startle people. I had a bicycle startle me, a traditional bike, an acoustic bike, as I like to call them, startled me this morning. And I was walking on the far right edge of the bike path, but they came around me and no bell and no verbal signal, just kind of whooshed around, and that is what it is. So the big issue is speed on the bike paths and e-bikes. One thing I want to say is, I volunteer myself to be involved in any discussions from any of these groups, because when I look at the makeup of the committees and I listen to the write-ups, I don't hear anything from e-bike advocates. All I hear about is traditional bikers talking about the need for some regulation or control over e-bikes. And I think there needs to be an e-bike advocate in these discussions as well. And when I say e-bike advocate, I mean, I think there probably does need to be some guidelines. I'm okay with that. But I don't think we want them to be excessive in any way. Let me stop here. I'm at the corner of Collier. I'm at the corner of Bald Eagle and San Marco. I'm headed down to my favorite park, and that is Caxamas Park. And I've got e-bikes going by, and I've got traditional bikes going by. So first, let me address the speed issue. A traditional bike can do 30 miles an hour. Commissioner Castro mentioned that a lot of the scooters and e-bikes can do 30 miles an hour. You just have to work harder at it. So do you see the e-bikes and the scooters going faster more often because of the effort you don't have to put in to get those speeds? Yes, I would say that is correct. You see it more frequently, but I've also seen traditional bikes go faster than they should be on the bike paths as well. However, I get it. It's not as frequent, so therefore it doesn't get quite the attention. But on the roads, we've got Ferraris, we've got Lamborghinis, Maseratis here in Marco Island, and they're very capable of going faster than the speed limit. Matter of fact, I happen to live on Bald Eagle. Guess what? Guess who you hear zipping down the roads? It might be the Camaro, it might be the sports car, and they'll either accelerate up to the 35 mile an hour speed limit really aggressively, or you just see them fly down the road. And we have regulations in place for that. They just have to be enforced, and it's more common that those do get enforced. Why can't we have the same thing for e-bikes and scooters on the shared use path? Because if we move people into the street, right? So right now, if we talk about the shared use paths, we say, well, the abusers are the e-bikes and the scooters. Okay. So if we shift the e-bikes and the scooters, let's say, to the bike lane in the road, well, guess who will be the abusers then? Those will be the vehicles. And those will be the ones that the e-biker will assume the position of the pedestrian on the shared use path if they're moved to the street, if that makes any sense. So, to be honest, I don't think moving e-bikes and scooters to the street is the best solution. But in some cases, I would say it probably is. And this is that situation. And this is what I'm specifically talking about in terms of speed. So I think e-bikes and scooters should be allowed on the shared use paths just like they are legally now. However, they need to be kept to a moderate speed. And if they choose to go above that speed, that moderate speed, then they need to move to the bike lanes in the road. And I think that's a common sense approach to the entire situation. I think if you want to go faster on an e-bike, you want to go faster on your scooter, get over in the bike lane in the road, move with traffic, but don't do it on the shared use path. Now, enforcement. You know, we're fortunate, and I know Commissioner Castro takes care of all of Collier County, but we're specifically one of his cities in his district. So I know this may not apply to the entire county, and that's why I don't want to see the county make the rules for places like Marco Island, because I think the areas are different. I wouldn't want to see the whole county painted with the same brush. I think on Marco, the concept of enforcement could look like either code enforcement or the police officers themselves. And we have the advantage of having a low crime rate. So, you know, I'm saying this, I may be a little ignorant if any of our police officers are watching, but we don't have the crime in Marco Island that other municipalities do in Collier County. That's my quasi-educated assumption. I definitely know that most of our police officers come from big cities where it was a completely different dynamic in terms of law enforcement. And here on Marco Island, I think they're more into education and safety as opposed to violent crime prevention. or enforcement. So do we have the resources to police the bike paths? I think we've got room for it. I don't know if we should overwhelm them and start setting precedents on enforcement duties on bike paths versus the road. I wouldn't say that at all. But, like everything, there needs to be a balance because we all got to live together. But it's my understanding that there is not an ordinance or law that they can really enforce currently, so they don't. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong on that, because I feel like if any police officer were driving by and saw an unsafe situation, they would interject themselves, whether the law told them to do that or not. That's just good judgment call on their part, and I believe that's in everybody's best interest, and I believe that's their intent. You can see I'm on the bike path now. I'm on Landmark, heading south. It's a great road and nice wide path inside the road. And there's really no shared use path on Landmark going north to south. There's sections of a little bit of a wider, you can see here on my right, a little bit wider sidewalk, but then it goes back to the older sidewalks, the skinny ones. So I never really ride, unless if I look a block or two down and there's nobody on the sidewalks, but there are vehicles in the road, I'll move over to the sidewalk. And then if I see somebody coming up in the distance, I'll move out back into the road just so they feel comfortable. They don't feel like they have to stop and step aside in the grass. And that brings me back to this, common courtesy. Common courtesy should prevail. It doesn't matter what you're riding on a shared use path. Common courtesy should prevail, because I can make most things go faster than everybody would want to on a shared use path, but it's just not appropriate to do so. So how do we enforce the abusers? Because this is what has brought this to a head, and that is the abusers. It's not people like me who pedal my e-bike 99.9% of the time. I see people all the time, older people that go to the markets with their baskets, and like I said, I live on Bald Eagle near the market, near Veterans Park, and I see it all day long. And there are people on e-bikes that would not be on traditional bikes. And that's the benefit of e-bikes. It gets people out that wouldn't otherwise do so. And it hacks off 10 or 20 years of your physical abilities in terms of being able to bike. So it gets people out that would not otherwise do so, and it also gets them out for a longer period of time, because they don't have to worry about being 3 miles from they don't have to worry about being 3 miles from home. All of a sudden they're tired and they can't get back, or their butt's sore, or whatever. Any kind of excuse you can think of. They could use the electric bike to get back. Now, for the people that say there should be no motorized vehicles on the sidewalk, first of all, it's not a sidewalk, it's a shared use path. So, bring yourself up to date on the ordinance concerning a shared use path and what's allowed. But also, in the state of Illinois, or I'm sorry, that's where I came from, Lord. In the state of Florida, right or wrong, e-bikes are not considered motorized vehicles. I understand they've got a motor on them. I get all that, but the legal description is that they don't. Now, let me jump back to the entities that are having the formal discussions about e-bikes. I've only heard people talk about e-bikes, yes or no, right or wrong. I've never heard anybody talk about the different classes of e-bikes, which there are, and you could limit the class of e-bike to the shared use paths. But then again, most e-bikes nowadays are adjustable, so you can adjust them to limit yourself with class 1, class 2, class 3, and that's so that your bike, you can have one bike and adapt it to any type of trail system you're on, or any municipality and the ordinances that they have. So I'm riding my bike, and who's to say whether it's in class 1, class 2, or class 3? The only thing that should matter is, am I speeding on on the darn shared use path, because nobody's going to be able to dictate, or I'm sorry, will be able to determine what class of bike I'm riding from a distance. And I don't think we have the manpower or really want to get the police involved on stopping every bike and checking that. It should just literally be based off of, is it a dangerous situation or not? And if I think it is, I'm interjecting myself, and I'm allowed to do so. And I would hope that the police eventually can get either permission or authorization or something like that to regulate it in that mode. So now I'm going to talk about the class of offenders. And the class of offenders are, you have your older people like me, you've got your kids, and then you've got what I'm going to call our worker population. And in our worker population, a lot of them use e-bikes and e-scooters as their primary mode of transportation. That's their family vehicle, which I think is fantastic. Do I see a lot of that going faster than it should? I do. Again, because I can look out my window and watch it all day, so I have the benefit of seeing that. And again, it's primarily a speed issue. Also, I would say when you have 3 people on a bike, the state law says you're not allowed to do that. You're only allowed to have as many people on the bike as what it is designed to hold. So there's another thing that could be enforced. The speed obviously could be enforced just by observation. But I think education is a big part of it, and I know the Marco Island Police Department is big on education. I don't think they try to hand out a lot of tickets if they don't have to. If they see something that's safe, they will. I think generally they try to educate first, and then do enforcement second. And what I think is, I see on Facebook, on the city site and on the police department site, you see a lot of posting of rules for e-bikes and sort of reminders, things like that. But I think I've seen it before, but I don't see it. It's not prevalent, and maybe it just doesn't show up in my feed because that's a Facebook algorithm thing. But I don't see any bilingual education, and I think that would be an area to step up in as well. I'm not a mail carrier or anything like that, but I do have a sign that I put in my yard occasionally, and it says, on one side, it says, I love riding my e-bike on Marco Island, but I'm afraid if we don't slow down on the shared use path, we're going to ruin it for everybody. That's just kind of stating the facts, I think. But on the other side of that sign, I've got the same thing, and it's in Spanish. And hopefully that's the second most spoken language here on Marco Island. So that addresses that category. Kids, I think kids are another one, and I think the kids are, okay, so I'm 59, so I probably think the kids are out of control a little bit. When I was 14, 15, was I doing the same thing? I was riding wheelies on my bike down the street, trying to. And so I don't want to be a hypocrite completely. However, I will say, society in general is a lot different now. And the rules have changed. We don't have like the freedoms we used to have back in the 70s. But e-bikes, I believe, are regulated, only supposed to be ridden by people 16 or older. You can't have more people on it than it's designed to carry. You're supposed to wear a helmet if you're underage, and I think the age is 16. But all of those things, I think need to be enforced. And I don't really blame the kids because, if you talk to anybody who's got any kind of medical profession, they'll tell you their brains just aren't fully formed yet. That's not their fault, right? It just happens with age. So for me, I put it on the parents. It's up to the parents' job to enforce that. And that's how it worked when I was a kid. And I think some things change, but more things stay the same. And that's just how it should be today as well, especially on Marco Island. You have very attentive families, and you really don't have to worry about too many kids getting lost in the shuffle. Got some cars coming in. Go this way. Oh, here I go. It's busy down here at South End, public parking lot. Okay, just about to Caxambas. I'm on Swallow right now. So back to the kids. I think we just need a little bit of enforcement. Here's one thing that I think should be ruled out right now, and that is, you've got the electric motorbikes, which are they look like little enduro motocross bikes. There's no pedals on them. You couldn't pedal them if you tried. So it's not an e-bike at all. And I would hate to see e-bikes clumped in with those. Let's understand the difference of an e-bike. Let's understand the difference of a scooter, and let's understand the difference of, they call them like Suron bikes. Suron is a brand name of those motocross e-bikes that they were one of the first ones out there. They're really popular. It's kind of like if you go make a copy of a document, we used to call it, hey, I'm going to go Xerox that, because Xerox was the name that was first of the company that first perfected that process. So it's the same thing. So they're kind of called Suron bikes, I believe. And again, no pedals. There's no way you could pedal it. Those bikes would go up to 50 miles an hour. And although I will say this, I see more kids wearing helmets on those, full-faced helmets, but I think that is definitely not a vehicle for shared use paths, and I don't think that would fall under the intent of a shared use path as opposed to e-bikes, bikes, whatnot. So I'm almost at my destination. This is truly a ride and ramble. I've said it out loud. Again, I'd like to offer any of the committees out there or organizations, if they need somebody to represent e-bikes, I offer up my time for that. I have some experience in that with our municipality back in Illinois where I live. They ended up registering e-bikes, and I don't really know what that did for a fee of like $25, but I don't know what that did for safety. But I had discussions with the city manager and the chief of police who was in charge of implementing that back at the time, and we worked through that. So a lot of it back then was the gas bikes, the gas motorbikes that were converted from regular bicycles to they used to call them TUI bikes. But anyway, I'm done rambling. I'm at Caxambas Park. Time to sit here and enjoy. Caxambas Park is beautiful. Come on down, and I hope you found this video interesting and informative. I'd love to hear your comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.